Hey, what is going on, you bumbling B-barrel? Got some new cards to take a look at today. The Japan Championships just concluded over the weekend. Raging Bolt actually took the whole thing down. If you want to see my commentary on the gameplay from the live stream, it's available on the live tab here on the YouTube channel. But with every major tournament that happens in Japan, they always reveal new cards during the day too, usually before Top Cut, and some more mega Pokemon and cards from the new Mega set coming out later this year have been revealed. So that's what we're taking a look at here today. A couple of them are pretty crazy powerful. So let's jump right into it. One of them that's not too crazy powerful is the Mega Venusaur EX, but actually has some cool combos that you could maybe put together with this card. A little bit more on the fence about this one than some of the other ones, but 380 HP is a lot of HP. Now, the Mega Pokemon, for anyone who's unaware, are worth 3 prize cards. A lot of you are going to be new to Mega Pokemon. Mega Pokemon have existed in the past, and for anyone who's familiar with those, no, there was no like special Mega Pokemon mechanic in the past. If you evolved from the basic of a Mega Pokemon, which was also an EX Pokemon, to the Mega Pokemon, so it went from like a basic EX to a Mega EX, your turn ended unless you had the specific tool card attached to that Mega Pokemon, then your turn didn't end. For the new Mega Pokemon, they're just called Mega Pokemon, and they're worth 3 prize cards, and that's it. There's nothing else new or special about them compared to the old ones if you're familiar with those. Most of you probably aren't even familiar with Mega Pokemon at all, though, and they do just evolve up from the normal evolution line. And with that, unlike the owner's Pokemon that evolve from like owner's Bulbasaur, owner's Ivysaur, or the owner's person like ends, you know, Zorua has to evolve into end Zoroark, the Mega Pokemon can evolve from any of the other Pokemon. So you could run this Venusaur with other Venusaurs in a Mega Venusaur deck. But Mega Venusaur EX, 380 HP, Solar Trans ability. As many times as you like during your turn, you may move a basic grass energy from one of your Pokemon to another of your Pokemon. So we're just moving grass energy around. Of course, Ogerpon, Grass Ogerpon is currently legal in the format and will be legal when this card comes out. So you'll be able to build a bunch of grass energy and play with the Ogerpons and then move them around with the Solar Trans ability. And then Jungle Dump for the attack for 4 grass energy, just 240, heal 30 damage from this Pokemon. So I'm going to skip ahead here to one of the trainer cards that does synergize pretty well with that combo of the Ogerpon plus the Venusaur, and that is Wally's Compassion. Heal all damage from one of your Mega Evolution Pokemon EX if you do put all energy attached to that Pokemon back into your hand. So because this thing has 380 HP, and we can make it go higher with like a Hero's Cape if we wanted, 480. Ridiculous. It's a lot of HP to have to deal with. We can take some hits probably, and then because we can move the energy off the Mega Venusaur, we could then heal it with the Wally's Compassion and then move the energy back to the Venusaur, or we could leave some energy on the Venusaur and then heal it with Wally's Compassion. The energy goes back to our hand, and then we can cycle the energy back into play with our attachment for turn, but also using Ogerpon's ability, which makes like a cool kind of like pseudo draw engine through the supporter of Wally's Compassion. So we have a Mega Venusaur in our active, attacking with the Jungle Dump for 240. Our opponent hits our Mega Venusaur enough to the point where we want to heal it with Wally's Compassion. We don't move the energy off the Mega Venusaur. We Wally's Compassion our Venusaur. The energy goes all back to our hand. We have, you know, 3 or 4 Ogerpon on our bench. We use each Ogerpon ability, draw a card for each of them, and then using the Solar Trans, we move all the energy from the Ogerpons back to the active, and then we Jungle Dump once again. So it's like a pretty cool combo that you could set up there. And I'm sure this card could see play with some of the other Mega Pokemon as well. Next card to take a look at here is the Hariyama. Actually, I haven't read the Ninetales yet, so we're going to read that real fast. I don't think it's good, though. Discard the top card of your deck. If that card is a supporter, use it as the effect of its attack. That is bad. Okay, Hariyama here. Sumo Catcher ability. When you play this card from your hand to evolve one of your Pokemon, during your turn, you may switch one of your opponent's bench Pokemon with their active Pokemon. So we kind of already have this in the format with Hop's Double. So this isn't anything crazy new, but it is a fighting Pokemon. Reversal Energy could work with this to use the Wild Press to do 210, which KO stuff like Ogerpon and Pheasantipity, of course, because even though Pheasantipity is not weak to fighting, or even though Pheasantipity is weak to fighting, or even with its lack of weakness, we're doing 210 damage. That KOs Pheasantipity is what I'm trying to say. For 3 fighting energy. I don't know how we're getting 3 fighting energy on this besides using a Reversal Energy. But yeah, we basically already have this ability in the format through Hop's Double, so this isn't bringing anything new, but I usually don't do this, but I'm going to make a prediction that with the release of this Hariyama in this set or a future set, they're going to be releasing a trainer card that searches fighting Pokemon out of our deck, whether that be an item card or a supporter, because it feels just weird for this thing to exist when Hop's Double exists. It's like fighting Hop's Double, but like I think Hop's Wooloo has 70 HP, so you can Poffin for it, but you can't Poffin for the Makuhita. So this is like always worse than playing Hop Stubble, but it's like the exact same thing for the most part besides the attack. So my guess is that they're going to give us a way to find fighting Pokemon through trainer cards. We got the Mega Lucario EX here. I'll go over this again. I've gone over it in the past, but may as well do it one more time for those who haven't seen this card yet. 340 HP, Stage 1 Mega Pokemon. Aura Jab for a fighting. Attach up to 3 basic fighting energy cards from your discard pile to your bench Pokemon in any way you like. So pretty good first attack. Pretty efficient attack. And then Mega Brave for 270 for 2 fighting energy. During your next turn, this Pokemon can't use Mega Brave. So also not bad. This Riolu specifically has 80 HP, but there is a Riolu with 70 HP in the format when this card releases. So we'll probably be using that with Buddy Poffin. Accelerating Stab for 30 for a fighting. During your next turn, this Pokemon can't use Accelerating Stab. And then we got the Premium Power Pro item card here. During this turn, attacks used by your fighting Pokemon do 30 more damage to your opponent's active Pokemon. So the 270 is kind of coming up a little bit short on the big Stage 2 EX Pokemon or other Mega Pokemon, but with some Premium Power Pros, all of a sudden we're hitting hard enough to be able to take those big one-hit KOs on stuff like Dragapult EX potentially. This card also seems like it'll be pretty good with Garchomp. Cynthia's Garchomp seems like we'll get a lot of value out of this, so that's like another use case for this card for sure. And then we have Lily's Determination. We knew we were going to be getting some kind of draw supporter card because it looks like Research is going to be rotating with next rotation upcoming in March, which is still a ways away, but we knew we were going to be getting some powerful draw supporter at some point, and it looks like it's going to be Lily's Determination. Now, other stuff could come out between now and rotation, and of course, new sets are always coming out after rotation as well, but I feel like this is going to be like the Research replacement, or whatever you want to call it. Also, Iono is rotating as well. I do expect them to give us some form of hand disruption, a little bit more powerful than something like Judge, before rotation hits, or as rotation hits with the rotation set, but we haven't seen that quite yet. But this feels kind of like the Research replacement. Shuffle your hand into your deck, then draw 6 cards. If you have 6 prize cards remaining, if you haven't drawn a single prize card yet, draw 8 cards instead. This card is actually just absurd. Maybe the most powerful consistency supporter we've ever had. Research is great, and in some decks you'd rather play Research than something like this because you want to aggressively discard cards. But most of the time, you definitely would lean towards wanting to shuffle your cards back into your deck, so you have the option of them later. And in the early game, being able to draw 8 cards off a shuffle draw is actually just absurd value, power, whatever you want to call it. So insane supporter card coming here. Definitely going to be a staple, not just with rotation, but probably even before rotation. I expect most decks that play Research now to probably just be playing Lily's Determination instead. Decks are going to be like 4 Determination, 4 Iono instead of the Research that people are currently playing. Because yeah, this card is just absurd. It's absolutely insane how good this card is. So definitely expect to see quite a few of these being played even before Research gets rotated. Next, we got the Inteleon here with the Bring Down attack for a single water. The Pokemon in play that has the least HP remaining, except for this Pokemon, is knocked out. If there are multiple Pokemon, you choose one. And then Water Shot does 110. Discard energy from this Pokemon for a single water. Does not seem great now. If they do come out with a Mega Inteleon, though, all of a sudden things change a little bit. Because then all of a sudden we're looking at this and being like, ooh, this is a cool one of to include in our Mega Inteleon deck. So we'll have to wait and see if there's a Mega Inteleon. But by itself, I don't know, maybe you could reasonably include like a 101 count in like some other Stage 2 water deck that already plays like Rare Candy or something like that. But Sobble's got 70 HP, which is nice. Drizzile with 100. They are increasing the HP of the Stage 1s, it seems, for the Stage 2 Pokemon by a little bit. The new Curlia we'll talk about here in a second has 100 HP. The Ivysaur has 110, so feels like they're giving a little bit extra HP. And even to the basic Pokemon as well. Riolu 80, Bulbasaur 80, which honestly is more of a drawback than a plus right now because Buddy Poffin's in the format. But 2 rotations from now, Buddy Poffin will rotate, and at that point, maybe all of a sudden having that extra HP will be big difference maker. Pachirisu here with the 70 HP. Nothing great here. The Tingly Incisors for lightning energy does 10 damage, and then during your opponent's next turn, whenever your opponent attaches an energy from their hand to the defending Pokemon, they put 8 damage counters on it, so pretty bad. New Ralts, Collect Ralts, probably going to be the optimal Ralts, because the current Ralts, oh, this one's weak to Dark. I guess that could be the difference maker between the I think the other Ralts is weak to Metal. Am I wrong? I might be wrong on that. But has Collect, that's better than the attack of the other Ralts. Drawing a card's kind of cool, so this might become the optimal Ralts moving forward. Curlia as well. This Curlia is also pretty good. The other Curlia has 90 HP. The 10 HP is definitely better. Also, Psyshot for a single Psychic does 30. I think the attack of the other Curlia for 2 energy does 30. The secondary attack is for like 3 energy. It does like 50 plus 20 for each energy on your opponent's active Pokemon or something. It's nothing ridiculous. But Call Sign is definitely where the real value comes in to want to include this Curlia. I guess, honestly, maybe we're seeing these 100 HPs coming out because maybe they're going to reprint Level Ball. That could be something. Level Ball allows you to find stuff like Bulbasaur, Makuhita, but it wouldn't allow you to find the Stage 1s of stuff like the Ivysaur or the Drizzile or the Curlia. But Call Sign, search your deck for up to 3 Pokemon, reveal them and put them in your hand and shuffle your deck. That's pretty good. Like, it's not an attack you want to be using probably, but if you have nothing else to do on your turn, the call sign's not bad, setting yourself up for the following turn. Of course, there's the Mega Gardevoir EX. This has been revealed for a little while. I've talked about it before, but let's go over it once again like the Lucario. 360 HP, Stage 2 Mega Pokemon here. Once again, like I said, it's all it is it's called a Mega Gardevoir EX, which means you could play if you're playing a Gardevoir deck, you could play 4 Mega Gardevoir EX and 4 Guardy EX if you wanted to. You probably wouldn't do that. I wouldn't recommend that, but some count of like a 2-1 split or like a 2-2 split maybe. So you can combine them alongside the other Gardevoir EX we currently have, which is already pretty good. And then the Ralts, the Kirlia, they all evolve up. They both evolve up through the same Pokemon as well. Same Kirlia, same Ralts, so it's pretty easy to include them in the same deck if you want to. Overflowing Wishes for Psychic Energy for each of your benched Pokemon. Search your deck for a basic Psychic Energy card and attach it to that Pokemon, then shuffle your deck. Not bad, especially because it synergizes so well with the attack. Mega Symphonia for Psychic Energy. This attack does 50 damage for each Psychic Energy attached to all of your Pokemon. That's pretty good. I don't know. There's going to be a ton of different ways to play Gardevoir until rotation hits, because of course once rotation hits, we actually do lose the current Gardevoir EX to rotation. But before that happens, we've got Gardevoir EX, we've got Mega Gardevoir EX, you still got Drifloon, Bravery Charm, Screamtail, Monkey Dories, Jellicent is being played. If anyone tuned into, or if you haven't tuned into yet, I'll also be posting a video with some of the matches from it, but Jellicent was being ran in Gardevoir to pretty decent success. It looked like a lot of really good Japanese players were playing Jellicent Gardevoir over at the Champions League over the weekend, so that's another thing to include in Gardevoir potentially. And with all of that, I'm going to skip ahead for a couple of the cards here to talk about Mystery Garden. Once during each player's turn, that player may discard 1 energy card from their hand to draw cards until they have as many cards in hand as they have Psychic Pokemon in play. This is an insane stadium, especially when there is such a powerful Psychic deck in Gardevoir to already go with it. There's going to be just so many ways. I don't know how many of these you're going to play, but if you want to think about it, Gardevoir most of the time has 5 Psychic Pokemon on the bench and a Psychic Pokemon in the active. That's 6. So if you have like a 3-card hand and you have an energy in it, you discard the energy, draw 4 cards. That's pretty absurd. I don't know if you'll play 4 of these, because then they'll start to clog your hand quite a bit. But you can still play a pretty high Ultra Ball count. Vessel, of course, to find your energy, to not only get it to cycle with the Mysterious Garden, but also get into your discard pile to be able to use Guardy EX's ability. You'll be able to play Guardy also in a different way than it's currently being played, where it's like playing more heavy draw supporters. You'll probably go back to like a 4 Arven, 4 Iono, and then like 3 to 4 Mystery Garden alongside your Secret Box for like your consistency. So, and even Boss's Orders, like there's probably an argument to include Boss's Orders back into Gardevoir consistently. I know Isaiah Bradner and crew played it at NAIC 2 weekends ago now, but it hasn't seemed like it's caught on as like the main way to, or a main card to include in Gardevoir still. But there'll be a better argument for it when you have like a consistency engine of the Mystery Garden in your deck. Of course, you can still play stuff like Mew and Pheasantipity as well for additional draw support. So yeah, Gardevoir seems like it's going to be insane with this card in it. Cards like Night Stretcher become more powerful in the deck as well, because it's like recovery for your attackers, but it's also potentially gives you energy to put back on like your Monkey Dories, but also your Night Stretchers become like an effective draw, potentially 6 cards with Mystery Garden in the mid-late game, even the early game. So yeah, just insane amount of ways to play Gardevoir and different options Gardevoir has. I don't even know if you'll play Mega Gardevoir EX initially, to be honest, until maybe Gardevoir EX rotates, but that's an option. Mystery Garden Engine's an option. It's just absolutely absurd how much they're giving to Gardevoir still, despite it being by far the most successful deck recently, and over the last like 2 years, probably the most successful deck as well. Gardevoir's just been on an insane tear since it released, and now still getting new tools to this day. We're about 6-9 months before it rotates. It's got a lot of time left, a lot of new tools to work with, and it's going to be interesting to see how many more tournaments Gardevoir can win, to be honest, because yeah, this is like a huge boost for options. Like I said, I'm not convinced on Mega Gardevoir EX even being included in the deck, but some count of Mystery Garden for sure. This card is just insane. Not only is it really good for Gardevoir, of course, but other Psychic decks will be able to take advantage of this as well. I can't off the top of my head think of any other Psychic decks right now, because you need to play a pretty high count, if not only Psychic Pokemon in your deck, to really get value out of this card. If you're running like a deck that plays some Psychic Pokemon, but not all Psychic Pokemon, it would really be hard to get value out of this card. Also, you need to be running like a decent high energy count, or be able to utilize energy being in the discard pile as well. So off the top of my head, I can't think of anything besides Gardevoir to use this card with, but super powerful card outside of it just obviously synergizing with a super powerful card like the Gardevoir EX. So Yeah, just kind of insane. We got the Mega Latios EX here, 280 HP. Strafe for a colorless energy does 40 damage. You may switch this Pokemon with one of your bench Pokemon. And then for a Fire, Psychic, and colorless, you do 300 damage. Discard all energy from this Pokemon. And got some synergy here. Mega Latios EX. Okay, it does have synergy here with the Latios non-Mega, non-EX ability. Once in your turn, when your Mega Latios EX moves from your bench to the active spot, you may move any number of energy from your bench Pokemon to that active Pokemon. So we have some energy built up in play. The main combo that I thought of that would work for this would be if you play it with Ethan's Ho-Oh EX, because Ethan's Ho-Oh EX accelerates energy to your benched Ethan's Pokemon. So you could have like Ho-Oh on your bench, accelerate 2 fire to itself, attach Psychic for turn somewhere, and then get your Mega Latios EX in the active. You could be playing your own Latios EX to give yourself a retreat. We got Air Balloon, we got Switch, we got so many different ways we can get this thing in the active. Get it in the active, and then we're swinging for 300 damage. That's not bad. Also, you have like the Ho-Oh EX as like also another attacker in the deck to utilize, doing 160, putting on some early pressure. Has the heal, of course, on the attack as well, which is good in some matchups like the Grimmsnarl, the Dragapult. Who knows if those cards will even be good when this set drops. We got the black and white set that just dropped. This set's going to drop. Who knows where the meta or the format's going to be. But there definitely are some cards in the current format that would synergize pretty well with this. The last card to talk about here is the Mega Signal. Search your deck for one Mega Evolution Pokemon EX, reveal it and put it to your hand, then shuffle your deck. That's it. That's all it does. Pretty good, especially with cards like Arven in the format, being able to go Arven for an item card that can then find your evolution cards. We see stuff like Terra Orb being included as like a one of in decks like the Flareon Eevee box, because it's just such an efficient way to find your Pokemon really aggressively. You don't have to play your supporter for turn. You don't have to play Ultra Ball, which then forces you to discard 2 cards. So on top of it being good, when we have stuff like Arven in the format, also Noctowl would have good synergy with a card like this. I don't know what of these Mega Evolution decks would maybe want to run a Noctowl engine. Probably none of them. Maybe Venusaur, I guess. If you're running it with Ogerpon, you could run like Ogerpon Noctowl to get going, get set up, and get flowing. That could be something there, actually. We're kind of like that, actually, a little bit. That could work. That could work. And that would synergize with the Mega Signal as well. This is nothing crazy because it is such a limited Pokemon search card. It's like, do you really want to be playing something like this in your deck? It can only find your Mega Evolution, or would you rather just play more Ultra Balls? If you're already playing 4 Ultra Ball, including something like this is kind of a no-brainer. But if you don't quite have 4 Ultra Ball in your deck yet, and you're not running something like Arven or like Noctowl that can kind of cherry pick specific cards out of your deck when you need them at specific times, something like this isn't going to be as useful. So not a super powerful card, but good item card here for those Mega Evolution decks to consider in the future. And that's it. That's all the new cards revealed. And that is, I mean, as far as I can tell, just kind of the tip of the iceberg type situation. There's a lot more cards to be revealed from this set. So I'm excited to see what else they come out with. I'm hoping, and so far from what I've seen, nothing about any of these cards seems super overwhelming in terms of power. Like Mystery Garden, sure. But like the Mega Gardevoir, Mega Lucario, nothing crazy. Of course, they both still have ×2 weakness to Dark and Psychic, which are powerful types in the PokemonTCG pretty consistently. Of course, it's not going to be true for all the Megas. Mega Latios EX here has no weakness, of course, so that's a little bit different. But it is worth 3 prize cards. It does, even though it has 280 HP. You know, I think that trade-off doesn't seem overwhelming. So yeah, I'm hoping that the Mega Pokemon don't really overshadow everything we have going on right now, and I'm hoping stuff like the owner's Pokemon, stuff like Golden Go and stuff like that will still have some viability in the format, don't get completely overshadowed, and the power creep doesn't feel like it's just super, just I don't know, just like a lot. Hopefully it doesn't feel like there's too much power creep going on, and it's kind of at a steady power pace of power, set power level for a little while, especially once this next rotation hits. We lose the Gardevoir EX. I think that'll be a big shift to the format, to the metagame when we lose Gardevoir EX, but it's going to be around for a little bit longer. It's got some new pieces to work with. I'm definitely most excited to see how Lily's Determination feels in the format. We also are losing some other big cards with rotation, like Boss's Orders and Iono. I don't think we need anything to really fill the gap for Boss's Orders. We have stuff like this Hariyama, Hop Stubwool. We have the Meowscarada with the Toy Teaser Tool card. Stuff like Prime Catcher will still exist. Counter Catcher does rotate with Boss's Orders as well. So I don't think we need anything to kind of fill the role of a lack of a Gust effect, to be honest, unless it was like a more situational Gust effect, like a Counter Catcher or like a Great Catcher or Custom Catcher that we've had in the past. But I do think we will need to hopefully see, the one thing I do want them to come out with is a Hand Disruption card to kind of fill the void that Iono is going to leave. Now, it doesn't have to be like an Iono or an N. I actually think something more like a Roxanne's would be fine. We don't need 2 Shuffle Draw 6 supporters in the format, and it kind of sounds boring. So if they come out with something like a Roxanne's or like an Ace Trainer from way back in the day, if anyone remembers that card, I think that would be fine. I don't think we need an Iono, but we do need some kind of hand disruption that can be reasonably put into every deck. I don't think we want every deck to be running Unfair Stamp, because if you don't, you just don't have a good hand disruption card. And I also don't like the idea of like Judge, a reprint of Judge being the only form of hand disruption. So I'm hoping for something a little bit more powerful than either of those cards, but we don't necessarily need an Iona reprint. And I also don't think we need a Boss's Orders reprint or something similar to Boss's Orders as well. I think still have a ton of Gust options, and things will be a lot more interesting when Boss's Orders rotates. Are you going to try and fit the Hariyama, the Hops double into your deck, stuff like that? Of course, they'll be a lot more powerful. There'll be really powerful cards to try and include, but it'll be a lot more costly to get Gust effects into your deck at the same time. That's it. That's my thoughts on all the new cards, and thinking a little bit ahead towards the future, I guess, as well. Catch y'all in the next one.